be screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Ichigo Joins Pokemon? Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Strange and Kind 634 of them on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Ding ding. The doorbell kept ringing. "Cynthia, could you get that? I have to take the phone," came the elderly voice of Carolina from the kitchen. "Okay," Cynthia answered back to her. After finishing her cake, she ran to the door and opened it. "Who is it?" she asked the person outside. "Is this the Shinypokemon residence?" he asked her, checking his clipboard. "Yes, it is," she confirmed. "I have a package for Cynthia Shinypokemon," he says, slowly reading the address on his clipboard. "That's me," she tells to him. "Then, could you sign here?" He put the clipboard in front of her. After signing, the delivery man gave her a big cardboard box. "Good day," he says, and left. She took it up to her room and thought of who would send her something. Who could it be? Cynthia checked the box and opened it. When she opened it, she gasped at the thing she saw inside the box. There is an incubator with a Pokemon egg in it. Huh? A letter? She found a letter beside the incubator. Before she could read it, clank! She heard a loud noise coming from the kitchen. She put the incubator and the letter back in the box before running downstairs. Entering the kitchen, "Grandmother," she yelled, scared that something happened to her. A few minutes earlier in the kitchen, Carolina entered the kitchen to take the phone. Picking up the phone, "This is the Shinypokemon residence. Who am I speaking to?" she answered the phone. "Professor Carolina, this is James Johnson. I'm Professor Celestia and George assistants," the person from the phone answered in a somewhat exhausted way. "Oh, Johnson, is it? How is the expedition going? And are the two coming home soon?" Carolina asked him. There was a long pause after she asked him. "Hello? Johnson, are you there?" "Professor, we had a problem in the cave we were exploring," he told her. "What problem?" Carolina asked in a serious tone. "The cave collapsed while some of us were inside." This put Carolina in a shock. "Did any of the workers get hurt?" she asked him. "No, none of the workers got hurt, but," he trailed off. When he paused, Carolina had a dread feeling. "Well, spit it out," she told him. "I'm sorry, Professor. Your son and his wife did not make it. They were trapped inside while trying to help the others get outside," he finally tells her in a sad tone. Carolina felt her heart break at the news and tears began to fall from her eyes. Clank. She then dropped the phone, not having the strength to stand up straight. "Professor? Professor, are you there?" "Grandmother, is everything okay?" Cynthia came yelling. She saw her grandmother on the floor and immediately ran to her. Carolina saw her granddaughter coming to her. "How am I going to tell her?" she thought to herself. Cynthia looked at her grandmother and saw that she had been crying. "What happened?" she thought. Before she could ask what was going on, Carolina picked up the phone again. "I'm fine. You're arriving with the bodies?" Cynthia got confused in what she is talking about. "Yes, I'll tell her too." She then hung up on the phone before turning her head to Cynthia. "Dear, I have something to tell you. It is important." Cynthia got more confused. "What is it? Was that Mom and Dad? Are they not coming home?" Carolina felt her heart starting to break even more at the girl's question. "Dear, your parents aren't coming home," the elder woman told her granddaughter. "Why?" Cynthia felt sad that they weren't coming home again. "There was an accident in the expedition your parents were carrying out." "What? So, they are busy and won't be coming home soon, right?" she asked. Already knew what her grandmother meant, but did not want to believe it. Carolina just looked away. She couldn't say anything more. "Grandmother, please, answer me," she started shouting. grabbing her arm while tears form in her eyes. "I'm sorry, dear," she says with a heavy heart. Tears fell from Carolina's eyes even after closing them. She couldn't believe it. Her parents, one of the most important people in her life, are gone just like that. It wasn't a dream, it had really happened, and now she lost them forever. Her mother would never be able to give her advice anymore, her father would not be able to joke around with her anymore, and she will never be able to see her family whole again. "Cynthia," Carolina tried to comfort the crying girl, but Cynthia ran to the front door fast before she could stop her. When Cynthia opened the door, there was someone standing there, someone she knew. "Cynthia," James Johnson says in a surprised tone. "Is it true?" she asked him, hoping it wasn't true. James knew what she meant and just looked down. Cynthia ran outside and saw 2 body bags were taken out of her parents' lab truck. Her world fell apart and she finally snapped. She screams "Nuo" and fell down on her knees before losing consciousness. A day had passed since she fell unconscious. Opening her eyes slowly, Cynthia found herself in her bedroom. She looked outside the window. It was a cloudy day. After a while, someone came into the room. "Dear, I see that you're awake," Carolina says to her granddaughter, who just looked outside. "It wasn't a dream, was it, grandmother?" she asked her, still looking outside. "No, it wasn't." "Dear, I'm going to the burial of your parents. Would you like to join me?" she asked her, but Cynthia didn't answer back. Carolina understood the situation and just left the room to let Cynthia have time for herself. When her grandmother left the room, Cynthia started sobbing, hitching a breath, and holding her knees close to her chest. "Why?" she kept asking, no one particular, but still repeating the words on and on. It started to rain, with only the sound raindrops falling on the roof of their house could be heard. After a while, she stopped and stood up. She then tried to look at the photo beside her bed, but she hit something. She looked down. It was the package she received before, so curiosity took over her. She opened it again and picked up the letter in it. She began to read the front of the letter. To Cynthia. From Mom and Dad. Her eyes widened before she opened the letter. To our dear daughter. Hi honey, tomorrow is your birthday, isn't it? So me and your mom thought of a gift for you. Since you always have a great interest in being a Pokemon trainer, we thought we'd give you a special Pokemon egg as a gift for your birthday. Happy birthday, honey. Love, Celestia and George Shirna. P.S. We know that you can become a strong trainer, so train hard to be the strongest, just like you always dream of. New tears then came falling down her cheeks. After wiping them, she got up from her bed with newfound resolve. I will be the strongest, she just thought to herself, and walked to her window, and I will make both of you proud of me, she says, looking up to the now clear blue sky. In the corner of the room inside the incubator, a crack can be seen on the eggshell. Dream ends. Opening her eyes slowly and waking up from a dream, the same dream she has been having for the past months. A dream about the day she lost her parents. Why can't it ever end? Cynthia asked herself, touching her face. Am I not strong enough? She just closed her eyes for a second before going to the bathroom to take a shower and do her morning routine. After changing into a new set of clothes and putting on her glasses, Cynthia headed downstairs towards the kitchen to start making breakfast. Carolina did not have a good sleep. Her job as a researcher was never relaxing, but she enjoyed doing it. Smelling the scent of bacon from the kitchen, she walked toward it and saw her granddaughter was already finished with her breakfast. Good morning, grandmother, Cynthia said in a monotonous tone. Carolina just sighed at her tone, knowing that she had started acting this way since that dreadful day. Good morning, dear, what will you be doing today? She says, already knowing the answer to it, but still asks. I'll be outside training, she just says before leaving the kitchen to go straight to their family battlefield outside. Carolina stopped her in her track. Dear, it would be wise to rest today. You have been training since the day you got your first Pokemon. Maybe you could go outside and make some friends, she suggested. Cynthia just turned to her grandmother and saw her looking straight at her with a worried face. Cynthia just sighed and nodded her head. I don't need friends, grandmother, I have my Pokemon, she answered her. But I'll take the day off to relax as you suggested. Excellent. Maybe you should check it again? Carolina got saddened that she didn't want to make friends but happy she'll relax for the day. Cynthia just snapped, It will never happen, grandmother, I have been checking it from Professor Rowan for months. She yelled at her saying she give up before stopping. I'm sorry, she says before running outside. Carolina just look at the way her granddaughter go. I hope someday you can be happy again, Cynthia, she wish. After running outside, Cynthia just stop and start walking towards a tree she and her parents always played together. She sat beside it, stroking the grass under her. Mom, Dad will be together forever, right? Of course, honey. She could still hear their voice and the promise they made here as if it yesterday. A while after she sat there beside the tree, she got up and walked to the nearest bus station. While she walked to the station, someone called her. If it isn't the blonde bookworm still carrying old books around, ha ha ha, came the voice of a girl with two others besides her laughing with her. Cynthia flinched a bit looking at the girls who have bullied her since she was a little kid. Why do they always do this? She, though anger starting to rise in her. Well, we have things to do, so see ya. She and her friends walk past her, tripping Cynthia to fall on her knees, dropping her glasses and book. Careful even with your glasses on, ahahaha. The girl left with her two friends. Cynthia just got up and dusted herself. She picked up her book and put back on her glasses. She then get into the bus. Arriving in San Gem Town, Cynthia still is in a bad mood and didn't look much where she's going since she's still thinking about her confrontation with those girls. Unfortunately, she bumped into a boy who also didn't look where he was going to, and the two collide. Oh, the boy cried before falling down. Fortunately for her, she didn't fall down. Cynthia didn't have time for this, and with an angry tone, watch where you going, she tells him before she walk away, not even looking back. Ichigo, are you okay? She just kept walking. Today wasn't her day. She then went first to the Pokemoncenter to heal her Pokemon, who is a bit tired from the last time they trained. She still has to go to the lab to check on it and pick up some other stuff for her grandmother. Maybe she could see her little friend in the pond outside the lab again, she thought to herself. Cynthia, we're done. Nurse Joy called out to her with a pokeball in her hand. Cynthia just thanked her. Cynthia walked up to the lab and enter while looking around. Oh, Cynthia, here to check again, are you? One of the professor assistants asked her, walking up to her. She just nodded. The assistants then say, the professor is in another room, so just follow me. After reaching the room, Professor, someone is here to see you. I'm bringing her inside. He called out from outside the room. Entering the room, Cynthia saw that the professor is indeed inside the room, but with company. She turned head and saw the orange-haired boy she had unfortunately crashed into. Oh, you're the idiot from before, she says in a deadpan voice. Professor Rowan then says, oh, you two know each other? Cynthia felt irritated at the statement. Like I would know someone as stupid like him. He was about to snap, but... Chair. A black-colored Charmander stood in front of her, growling at her angry. Cynthia is surprised at the unique Pokemon, especially after seeing its black flames. She tried to pull out her Pokedex, but seeing it was a Pokemon she knew and put it back in, kneeling down, not really afraid for being growl. And she rubbed his head. Charmander seemed to like it and lie down on the floor as she continued, a small smile form in her mouth. Ichigo saw it, even if it was just a second. Well, I'll be damned, so even a cold-hearted bitch can smile. Cynthia then looked back at Ichigo and say, he's your Pokemon, right? Back to her normal-ish self. Ichigo just nodded. Professor Rowan just signed. She's at it again. Battle me, she suddenly says. Ichigo got surprised at her declaration, but he didn't want to have a battle after just arriving in the region. Sorry, no. I'm too tired, Ichigo just replied to her without giving it much a thought. Cynthia did not like his answer. Before Cynthia could say anything, why not Ichigo? I would like to see your improvement, Professor Oak butt in. Professor Rowan just had a curious look. "Yeah, King, are you gonna back down from this chick?" Ichigo just signed fine. Satisfied with his declaration, she went outside the lab towards the battlefield. The rest follow her, and after the stood on opposite sides on the battlefield. "This will be a single match," she says to him. Cynthia then threw her Pokeball, Riolu, Battle Dance. A small blue canine Pokemon with a blue tail and yellow collar standing on its toe came out. It opened its eyes, standing silently then looked at Ichigo, and his eyes widened, but he just shook it off and took a stance. Ichigo didn't need to tell Charmander, as he already stood in front of him ready to fight. "You ready, Charmander?" He just breathed out black flames in response. Professor Rowan volunteered to referee. "And after they were ready, begin," he shouted. Q music, Pokemon, any battle theme. Cynthia quickly started. Riolu used agility to get in close and hit it with Brick Break. Riolu moved with great speed and charged his hands with energy. Ichigo surprised at the blue canine speed, so he quickly yelled. Charmander intercepted with Metal Claw. Riolu came fast ready to strike, but Charmander was able to intercept it. The two struggled to get an upper hand on the other. Rio. "Back down and use counter," she commanded him. Ichigo got confused. What is she planning, he thought. Riolu dropped Brick Break and let Charmander hit him on the face. Ichigo and Charmander had a question mark on their heads. But Riolu smirked and hit Charmander with greater force, making him flew back rolling. "She's strong and quite smart to use a move like that," Samuel says on the sideline watching the battle. "She's still warming up, Samuel. I'm concerned she'll beat the boy too much," Rowan says beside him. Professor Oak just nodded. "Ichigo, hope you have a plan to win this," he thought. Ichigo just stood and looked at Charmander getting back up. "Come on, King, I didn't train you two all that time to lose to a girl," Hollow says in his head. "Okay, Charmander, let's get serious. She no joke, but we're not weak either," Charmander just grunted in response. "Use Quick Attack and engage it with Metal Claw," he yelled. Charmander quickly ran to his opponent while charging Metal Claw. Cynthia just thought, he'll have to do better than that to beat us. "You two use Quick Attack with Brick Break." Riolu comply and ran quickly and engaged with Charmander. The two started giving each other blow after blow. Riolu ducked from a hit from Charmander and counter it a Brick Break, but Charmander blocked it with Metal Claws. Seeing the combat wasn't going anywhere, "Use Headbutt and pull back," she ordered. Riolu quickly ducked from another Metal Claw, then bashed his head on Charmander open belly and sent him back. Riolu then jumped back. "That is one well-trained Riolu," Professor Oak asked his friend. "It is. I was the one who gave him to her. She has gone far with him," Rowan says while rubbing his chin. Ichigo saw that Riolu pulled back, quickly used Flamethrower. Charmander then stood back up and quickly fired a huge stream of black flames heading towards Riolu. Use agility to dodge it. Riolu quickly runs sideways fast from the stream fire following him. Charmander kept breathing out fire from his mouth following Riolu movement. After a few seconds he stopped. Cynthia took the chance. Riolu used Force Palm. Riolu struck Charmander directly on his belly with his palm, pushing the fire type into the air. Professor Oak was getting worried for the little back Pokemon. After the fire type fell on the ground, a small cloud of dust covered him with a loud crash. Ichigo wasn't worried. He had a neutral look on his face. Cynthia, though, that she win, but Charmander now. Charmander quickly came out of the small dust engulf in black flames around his body, charging toward Riolu. Cynthia didn't have time to say anything. Riolu then got hit from the charging fire type, who kept pushing Riolu, burning him with his black flames. "Rah!" Riolu screamed in pain. Charmander jumped back and Riolu exploded with the flames. Bang! A shock wave occurred in the field. Everyone covered their eyes. When the dust slowly cleared, a figure is standing in the middle of the black marking on the ground caused from the explosion. Riolu had his arms crossed in defense, not knockout yet. Cynthia signed in relief. Before the explosion, she had ordered him to use Endure. After using Endure, Riolu breathed heavily. Rio. Ichigo got surprised. He thought that would have knocked him out. She is strong. He grinned and looked at Charmander, who did the same. Looks like we found someone strong, he tells him. Char, he agreed. Cynthia could not believe it. If she had not been careful, she would have lost. This is the first time she had been in this kind of situation. He's really strong, she though feeling respect for the first boy who almost beat her in a battle. Ichigo stared at the blonde-haired girl with a grin. You're very strong, he tells her. Cynthia just looked at him. Both eyes met. Brown eyes met gray eyes. She just looked back at him with a smirk before it left her face. She didn't respond much, but she was a little bit excited. But I'm gonna win this, he say with confidence. Cynthia got ready to finish it too. Quick attack, they both shouted. Charmander and Riolu ran quickly to each other. Force palm. Both shouted again. While running, Riolu pulled his right paw back, charging another force palm. Charmander also dropped his left claw, charging a metal claw with black flames engulfing his charged metal claw. Ryo. Charar. Paw and claw met in hands with a power of their own. A huge cloud of dust exploded after the two powers met. Ichigo and Cynthia hide their faces from the huge dust. The dust covers the whole battlefield so no one knows the outcome of the match. Tilda music stops. Tilda. After a few seconds the dust cleared. They can see Riolu fainted on the ground and Charmander breathing fast, exhausted a bit but still standing. Professor Rowan saw who the winner is. Impressive, he thought, and shouted, Riolu has fainted and the winner goes to Charmander and Ichigo. Charmander jumped and ran to Ichigo and cried happily, guess we won. Ichigo carry the happy Pokemon. While on the sideline, Professor Oak just looked happy for Ichigo's win and walked up to him congratulating him. Cynthia's eyes widened. She could not believe it. I lost? How? She began mulling over herself and just looked down after returning Riolu. Professor Rowan saw the look Cynthia had. Youth, he just thought with a sign. Cynthia just walked towards the Pokemoncenter to heal Riolu. She had a deep thought, am I not strong enough? After Nurse Joy was done, she walked outside, not even taking a glance to the boy who defeated her coming inside to heal his own Pokemon. What is up with her? Ichigo says to no one in particular. Beats me, but you sure did a great job, my disciple, Hollow tells him in an obnoxious way. Ichigo just ignored him. Nurse told him to come back later to pick up Charmander. Behave okay? His Pokemon just nodded at him, so he went back to the lab, but while walking towards the lab he saw Cynthia kneeling down in front of a pond outside the lab. She seems to be talking towards the pond. She's going to be really hot after puberty, I'll give her that, but her behavior is killing my mood. Hollow saying his opinion. Ichigo just rolled his eyes before walking quietly closer to listen what she's saying. How have you been doing? She asked a little Phoebus with a smile who is on the pond. The fish like Pokemon splash water at her saying it's happy. Sorry for not coming often, she apologized to the Pokemon. Booze? Cynthia loved spending time with Pokemon. She then told it all the things she had experienced the day and some other things to the little fish. I have to go now, but I'll try to come back again, okay? She tilted her head and smiled at the Pokemon. Phoebus just flipped from the water high acknowledged what she had said. She got up and went back to the lab to do what she had mainly came to do. Ichigo came out of hiding from seeing the event that had just happened. Ichigo just looked confused at the girl. Ichigo then looked at the pond and see a Phoebus head peeking out from the water. Ichigo got closer to see what it wants. Phoebus just looked at Ichigo with a sad look trying to tell him something. Ichigo just stood up. You care for her, don't you? Phoebus just nodded. Don't worry, I'll try to help her. I promise. Phoebus just looked got happy and went back to the bottom of the pond. Really, King? You just wasting time. She's a lost 'cause you have more important business to do like getting your memories back. I know, but I have a gut feeling that I should do something, Ichigo says, gripping his hand hollow. Just stay silent at that. Fine, do whatever you want, but don't come back crying to me. Cynthia walked back to the lab and went to the professor to ask what its status is. Professor Rowan, the professor just looked at Cynthia, turning his head from Samuel. Oh, Cynthia, how can I help you? Professor, what's its condition? She asked in a monotonous tone, already knowing the answer. The professor knew what she wants. Nothing has changed, but I recommend you to take it with you and keep it with you. It might be better. Cynthia didn't like it one bit, so she just turned her head heading towards the door, but she felt a hand pulling her right arm. She looked at the person who stopped her and see that Ichigo is the one who stopped her. What? Are you here to brag about your win? She asked with a cold gaze, pulling back her arm. No. Cynthia got confused. Then what? She asked again. You should listen to the professor. I already seen the egg, and you should know that it would not hatch if you keep putting here where others are too busy to handle it, Ichigo told her with a serious tone. It's Neve, she quietly murmured. What? Ichigo couldn't hear what she said. It's never go, she again repeated. I still can't hear you, he asked again. It's never gonna hatch, okay. You didn't think I know about that? Cynthia continued. I've been trying for months. You don't know anything, so stop butting in. She shouted words by words with anger in her eyes. Ichigo didn't even flinch. The others inside the building stopped what they were doing and looked at the scene. Professor Oak tried to stop Ichigo, but his friends grabbed his shoulder. She needs to face the truth, Rowan just say, looking back at the two. So you're gonna give up? Ichigo just say with a straight face. That did it. Something snapped inside Cynthia for the second time. Shut up, she yelled at him, tears falling down her eyes, and slapped his face before running outside. Ichigo didn't even look surprised and just looked at the direction she ran to with a sad face. Silences filled the room. Like I say, a lost cause, Hollow reminded him again. The two professors came down and everything inside the room came back to normal. Ichigo turned to them. I'm sorry, Professor, I didn't mean to that. It just came out, he tells Professor Rowan. It's quite okay, young man, she needed that. Ichigo and Professor Oak just look at him. What do you mean? You see, the girl has been suffering not physically but emotionally since the day her parents died. These surprised the two. Died? Rowan, you don't mean your two former pupils? Rowan just nodded. You know something about her parents, Professor? Ichigo asked. Samuel just nodded. I have met the two, but it was only a brief moment. Rowan, what did she meant by egg? Samuel asked. Ichigo already saw the egg before while looking around the lab. Yes, that. Well, before her parents died, they sent her a gift on her birthday, a Pokemon egg, he says to his old friend. But it won't hatch for reasons I don't know. She just put here hoping it would hatch, but I never did. It has been already a year, so I'm not really surprised she gave up. Ichigo just looked down guilty after what he said to her. I have to apologize to her, Ichigo declared. Then you should go to Celestic Town. It's where she lives with her grandmother, who is also another researcher. Professor Rowan points a map of the region. And she seems to have forgotten one of her belongings. He looked at the old-looking book on the floor before picking up. Looking at the book, ha ha ha. She seems to have interest in the Sinnoh's mythology just like her parents. Professor Rowan laughed and give the book to Ichigo for him to return it. Ichigo, before you go, could you also deliver this documents to her grandmother in Celestic Town? Cynthia was supposed to do it, but as you can see, she left before I could give it to her. Professor Rowan asked the boy. Rowan, can I see the egg that she mentioned? Professor Oak asked his friend. Rowan then pulled out an incubator inside. There is an egg teal color in the top and orange in the bottom, but the strange thing is the small crack on the side. Ichigo had already seen it when one of the professor assistants was checking it. Ichigo looked closely and found something about the egg. You see the small crack, it was like that when she brought it, but the egg is still in full health. It's very strange, Professor Rowan says to them. While the two were thinking over something, Ichigo opened the incubator and pull out the egg. It shake a bit, but stop. The two professor didn't notice him doing it. Ichigo found something underneath the soft texture inside the incubator. Ichigo pull out a worn-out letter, but still intact without any damage to it. After reading the outer layer of the letter, he quickly put it in an empty bag he found inside the lab with the documents he's to deliver, the incubator and her book. "I'm going," he told them and went outside, and the two just look at him. He then go to the bus station that is going to Celestic Town, but the weather seems to be getting cloudy. "I'm really tired, but I have to do this." He sat on one of the seats inside. "King, why do this? You could do more important things. If you keep this up, people will taking advantage of your kindness." Ichigo got really surprised at his words. "Are you worried?" Hollow just stay silent. Ichigo just smile a bit. "Thanks," he says, then waited for the bus to reach Celestic Town. Celestic Town. After running out of the lab crying, Cynthia run to the bus heading to her hometown. When the bus reached Celestic Town, the weather wasn't in a good mood either. "How dare he?" she though getting out of the bus. Cynthia pulled down her glasses and rubbed the tears away from her eyes. Walking toward the direction of her house, she suddenly stopped her tracks. The reason was from a few distance away from where the girls before who always bully her were hanging out. Today wasn't her day. "I'm too tired to deal with them today. I'll just go the long way," she says to herself and turn around to go the other way. There was another way to her house which she had used to go with her father when she was younger. After walking towards the small forest near the town, Cynthia walked into the forest, not really afraid as she reminisced in her memories of her time in the forest playing with her father and his Pokemon. She put down her glasses and put in her pocket and start walking. It start to rain and the path she is walking turn muddy. She didn't complain as she was lost in thought, but still look where she is going. Thunder strike near her the area she is standing, surprising her before snapping out of her thought and find her situation not too pleasant. She just signed she was all soaked from head to toe and mud all over her legs. These couldn't get any worse. She tested faith until a loud roar could be heard. Whatever it was getting closer to her location. Cynthia sweat a bit nervous, so she ran hoping to get home in time before whatever enraged Pokemon it was could see her. The rain started to get heavier by the second, and it was getting hard for her to run. Then she felt a jolt of pain in one of her feet. Time seems to slow down as she hits the muddy ground. Many though were going in her mind, but one thing came to mind. Is this it? She thought she couldn't pull her Pokemon to help her as her arm got bruised with her leg and frozen in fear of what is coming to her. And it jumped out and stood in front of her. An enraged Ursaring stood in front of her, angry for something which she didn't know. "Rah!" It growled loudly. Fear started to fill inside her eyes, and the Pokemon seems to not notice her as he charged energy in his mouth and pointed in the direction of the down girl, not really knowing what it was doing on its enraged condition. Cynthia just closed her eyes, ready for whatever is coming to her. Ursaring released the powerful move Hyper Beam. Bang! The Hyper Beam exploded, hitting something. Huh? Cynthia did not felt anything. She slowly opened her eyes to see what had happened. Her eyes widen a bit at what she is seeing right now. The powerful move did fire, but not in her direction. It had changed course, changed by the boy who had beaten her winning streak. What she is seeing right is something that could only happen in storybooks. He had saved her by punching the head of the enraged Pokemon to the side, and ergo the powerful beam fired on the other side. "Yeah, that's right, you don't mess with the king's girlfriend," Hollow says. "Shut up, and she is not my girlfriend," Ichigo shouted back in his mind. "Could have fooled me, haha," he tells him. The Pokemon did not like what Ichigo did to him, so he tried to slash back, but Ichigo jumped back. Ichigo did not like what is happening now as he looked a blind rage Pokemon growling. "Why do I always get into fights?" "It is because of your hair," Hollow answer him. "Haha, funny," he says in a monotonous tone. Since Charmander is still healing in the Pokemoncenter, he could take him. I guess I'll have to fight him, Ichigo says, getting into a stance ready to fight. The Pokemon ran to him with both claws charged with Brick Break. Ichigo too ran and engulfed his whole body with aura. Ursaring slammed down both his claw trying to pummel him. Ichigo blocked it with his arms but flinch at the power behind them. While struggling, Ichigo quickly roll under the large Pokemon and from behind he climb on its back. The Pokemon thrash around trying to lose him. Ichigo grab on its fur trying to hold on tight. He saw something while he grab on its back, then he jump back landing on the ground. You saw it, didn't you? Hollow says to him. Yeah, Ichigo says while evading another slash from the Pokemon. Then you know what you have to do? Cynthia could not believe what is happening right. Is this a dream? She just asked herself while still looking at the battle that is happening before her very eyes. The Pokemon came again, this time with a faster pace. Ichigo then filled his right fist with a huge amount of aura and quickly ran to the enraged Pokemon with a battle cry. Ah! Ursaring slammed his claw and it hits Ichigo on the left shoulder. Ichigo gritted his teeth and kneel from the force, but he smirked. He grabbed the Pokemon's arm and jumped on it before punching the Pokemon face hard, knocking him back. The punch pushed it back and it fell down. Thud! Finally, the Pokemon got knocked out. That really hurt. Ichigo grab on his shoulder, which started to bleed. He had only taken a little damage to his training. He then walked towards the downed Pokemon who had somehow came back to consciousness but with its rage gone. Ichigo kneeled down at the Pokemon. Ursaring could not make any resistance as he's paralyzed. Ichigo looked at a large wound on his neck, which he saw earlier, seeing that it was the reason for it going wild, putting his palm on it, which started to glow slowly, healing the large gush. Ichigo somehow healed all of its wounds. The Pokemon got up and looked at Ichigo and just nod his head trying to tell it sorry. Ichigo says, "It's okay." And the Pokemon left and went back where it came from. Ichigo then walked towards Cynthia, who had a bewildered face. Ichigo knelt down. Cynthia couldn't say anything, she was lost for words. Then she sees that he put his palm on her bleeding arms and his hands glow, healing her arms. How is he doing this, she thought. There, that's all better. Putting a finger on his lips, let's just put what I am doing right now a secret, okay, he says to her. She just nod. He then pull out something from his pocket and she just look at him curiously. Ichigo then put it on her. She blinks a few times. It was her glasses. She must have dropped it while walking on the path. You sure were lucky. If I haven't found that, I don't know how I would have found you, Ichigo say while getting up. Cynthia tried to get up, but she felt a jolt of pain again on her feet, but she didn't fell down. Two hands hold her before she could hit the ground. She just looked up at the boy, who's still scowling from the beginning, looking at her with a worried face. Seeing his worried face, Cynthia felt a pleasant warmth inside her. Careful, you sprain your legs. I have an idea, he says to her. He picked the soaked girl up and carry her on his back, while putting the bag he's carrying on his front. Cynthia's face lit up like a Christmas light at his action. I'll just give you a piggyback ride to your house. Real mature king, real mature, Hollow says with a dull tone. Cynthia just giggle at his statement, which she hasn't done for a long time. What? Ichigo asks confused. It's nothing, she answer while giggling, but stop immediately when he realizes what she is doing. Whatever. While they began to move, Cynthia says to him, I'm sorry. Ichigo keep moving forward. It's fine, but I should be the one to say sorry, he tells her. Now Cynthia got confused. Why? Because of me you got hurt. I should not have said those things to you in the lab. I didn't understand what you were feeling, he tells her. A small smile forms on her mouth. It's okay. I think I needed that, she says to him while putting her head on his shoulder. I don't know why I'm acting this way with him, but it feels nice, though. A pleasant silence fills the moment between the two. After getting out of the forest. Is that it? He pointing at a small mansion that really looks nice for a place to call home. Cynthia nodded. He began to walk, and the clouds starts to move away with the sunshine falling, brightening the day. This is getting too mushy for me. I'm out, Hollow says before fading away. Ichigo stood in front of the door. He rings the bell 2 times. After a while, an elderly voice came. The door came open. Who is it? In an unknown place. 2 figures can be seen looking at a large stone tablet showing our orange hair hero adventures in the world of Pokemon. Is he the one? One of the 2 asks the other one. Yes, he is, the other one answers in calm voice. I hope you're right, my lord. If not, then the world is doomed. Do not worry, I choose him, as he will help the chose one, and also as my key. Nodding it, just accept its lord's decision. Inside the Shirner residence. What is keeping that girl so long? A worried Carolina thought to herself, pacing back and forth in the living room. The weather wasn't really great either, as rain starts to fall heavily. This did not help to calm the mind of the worried grandmother. Cynthia, wherever you are, please be careful. I can't lose you too. After a few hours have passed, the weather started to calm down, but that did not soothe the worried grandmother. Ding! Ding! The doorbell rang thrice, and Carolina went to the door, hoping for it to be her granddaughter. Who is it? She opens the door, but shocked at seeing what is right in front of her. Goodness gracious, what happened? The worried grandmother loudly says to 2 very beat-up-looking kids. Hi, grandmother. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, says a very nervous blonde girl who is in fact on the back of a person who seemed to have a permanent scowl which Carolina has never seen before. Ichigo too got nervous and just put his hand up. Yo, the 2 Shirnas just sweat drop. Hollow just face palm. Weak king, just weak. Getting back to her main concern. Seeing their injuries. Coming you 2, I need to look at your injuries. Carolina widely opens the door for the 2 to come in. Ichigo follow the older women into what seems to be a lab, while still carrying Cynthia, who is a bit nervous. After entering, Ichigo puts Cynthia in what seems to be a bed. Thank you, Cynthia whispered to him after Ichigo carefully placed her on the bed, which did not got unheard by her grandmother, who raised a brow. It's fine, Ichigo weakly replied, putting down his large bag on the floor, before he fell down unconscious on the floor, too tired and exhausted to endure any more of the pain he received today. Cynthia had a horrified look on her face at this and quickly calls out her Riolu to help. At the Professor Rowan's lab. Samuel, stop pacing like that, it's giving me a headache, Rowan told his friend who is walking up and down inside the lab. I should have never let him go alone, he doesn't even have Charmander with him, Samuel says to his friend with a worried face. Delia is gonna kill me, he gulped. Rowan just sighed at his old friend behavior. Calm down and sit down, Samuel, just comply. Anyway, Samuel, aside for Charmander, it's rare of you to bring another person in your trips, so why now, he says in a serious tone. Sensing the confusion in his words, Ichigo is a special case. Samuel looks up at the ceiling. How so? Ichigo has created a bond with Charmander which no one has ever been able to before, and Charmander is responding in ways a Pokemon should never be able to, he tells him. Rowan got more curious after he say that. I tried to look into it if Ichigo's past has something to do with it, but the poor boy had unfortunately lost his memories, he says in a sad tone. Rowan nodded his head, understanding the situation. But he seems to regaining his memories little by little, but not much, he finished. There are some things which could help the boy's memory, but it's safer to let him regain on them on his own, Rowan suggested. Samuel didn't say anything, only having a deep though. Aside from that, you still need to tell me about Charmander. Rowan turned to his friend for the necessary data he has collected from the strange fire type. Samuel then explained to him with some research papers he has brought with him. After a while, the video phone began ring inside the lab. The 2 professors stopped what they were doing. It must be Carolina. Rowan then answered the call. The screen showed Carolina, this time with her lab coat on. Oh, Rowan, you answer. What is it? Carolina? Rowan looked at her. Well, something happened a while ago, and it seems to involve my granddaughter and an orange hair boy. She pulls up a large bag which Ichigo was carrying. Seeing the bag, Professor Oak stood up. What had happened, Carolina? She got surprised to see a familiar face. She then tells the two what her granddaughter told her of what had occurred. Samuel just breathed out loud. Huh, that boy. You know the boy? She asks. Professor Oak explains who Ichigo is and tells her about him just like he did to Professor Rowan. Anyway, we'll come at once, Carolina, Rowan told Carolina, who just nodded before hanging up the phone. Come on, Samuel. Professor Oak looked at the almost clear blue sky before going outside with his friend. After getting on Professor Rowan's car to Celestic Town and taking Charmander with him from the Pokemoncenter. Charmander stood sadly on the car and at Ichigo being far away from him. Don't worry, Charmander, he'll be fine, Professor Oak assured Charmander while rubbing his head. Charmander just looked down and twiddled with his red scarf. After reaching the Shirna residence, Carolina waited for them in front of the small mansion. Is he okay? Professor Oak quickly asked her. She holds up both of her hands. Calm down, Samuel, he's fine now. Samuel and Charmander just took a deep breath. Huh. Carolina looked at Charmander with curiosity. This must be the unique Charmander. She then examines the black fire-type Pokemon who is wearing a red scarf. Now? Rowan asked while walking into the house. The others two also walk in. Yes, at first his wounds and injuries were in critical condition, so I tried to call a friend for help, but after walking back into the room I put him. A strange thing occurred, Carolina explained to the two. Professor Oak already knows what she is talking about, and Professor Rowan had a curious look. What strange thing? His wounds were healing slowly on their own, answering him. Rowan then turned to his friend. Samuel, you skipped some things about Ichigo, didn't you? Looking at Samuel with a stern look. Charmander just left the living room to search for his friend. Yes, Samuel, I want to also know how a child like him is able to fight a fully grown Ursaring. If my granddaughter didn't tell me, I wouldn't have believed it. Carolina too had a stern look. Professor Oak just sweats a bit. Professor Oak then explains to them about Ichigo abilities and some other things. On another part of the house, Charmander is still looking for his friend, walking around in the house getting lost. He just folds his arms and tries to think of a way to find Ichigo. After a while, he still got lost. Charmander just deflated until a certain blue canine walked out of a room with a small bowl of water and a small towel. The two look at each other. Riolu asks what Charmander is doing here. The fire type just replied back, Charmander. Charmander asked back if he had seen his orange hair friend. Riolu nodded and told Charmander to follow him. Alu, why is your master aura so strange? Riolu asked the fire type. Charmander just looked at him, then looked back forward. I don't know, but I do know that he's one of the kindest human. Riolu just smiled a bit. After the two finally arrive to the room Ichigo is staying, the two enter and Charmander was going to give his friend a piece of his mind for going without him until he saw what is in front of him. Ichigo is sleeping on a bed, but the thing that stopped him from making a racket to wake Ichigo is the person beside Ichigo. It was Cynthia sleeping on the side of bed while sitting on a chair holding Ichigo's hand, and her glasses almost looked like they could fall down. Charmander couldn't make any noise, so he just walks quietly. Riolu too did the same while applying a drench towel on Ichigo's head. It looks really cute from a view, but Charmander just looked worried for his friend, seeing all the bandages around him again. Charmander just looked down, feeling useless. Back with the three professors, we should go see the two, Carolina suggested to them. Following her, Professor Oak and Rowan discuss some matters on the way. Opening the door to the room, the three walk in to see Charmander and Riolu sitting on the couch waiting for their trainers to wake up. So this is where you went, Charmander, Samuel says to the fire type. Charmander just give a weak response. The three then see the two children in the bed, Ichigo sleeping and Cynthia besides him, but Professor Carolina got surprised that the two were holding hands. Oh my, I never see Cynthia like this before. From the noise they made, Ichigo then start to move, and slowly he opened his eyes, pulling himself up from the bed. Ugher, my head. Rubbing his head with his right hand, Ichigo look around to find the professors and the others. Professor? Where am I? He look at Professor Oak, who just breathed out relief that Ichigo is okay. Charmander then jumped from his position and into Ichigo lap crying. Ichigo blink a bit and just smile before calming down the Pokemon. Sorry for making you worry. He felt a tug on his left hand. Looking at his side, Ichigo saw Cynthia sleeping on chair holding his hand. Why is she sleeping there? Carolina saw Ichigo confusion. She's been there the whole time, she explained to him. Ichigo looked at Carolina and back to Cynthia. Ichigo smiled down at the kind gesture Cynthia did. At first I thought she had an attitude problem, but after what had happened today I guess she's really nice. Ichigo scratched his head while saying his opinion of her, which put a smile on Carolina's face. Cynthia too slowly got up from her sleep and careful putting her glasses down. She rubs her eyes with her left hand before looking around. Grandmother? Cynthia looked at Carolina, still half asleep. Dear, you should wipe the drool on you. Her grandmother pointed it out to her. Quickly wiping them, she got embarrassed. Carolina smiled at her. Also, I think you're holding Ichigo's hand a bit too long. Cynthia got confused at what she said. Then look at her hand and see that she is holding someone's hand, looking up from the arms and see Ichigo looking at her. Could I have my hand back? He asked. A small blush appeared on her face before she let go and turned her head to the side embarrassed. Riolu just stood beside her. Ichigo just looked confused at the amused look the three professors were giving him and Cynthia. The three professors saw the whole thing and just laughed before slowly stopping. How are you feeling, young man? Turning to Ichigo, she asked. Ichigo stretched his arms a bit and flinched. I'm fine, but my right arm and shoulder is still in pain. Professor Oak then looked at Ichigo. Ichigo, you fought the Pokemon, didn't you? Ichigo froze up a bit and nodded, and Cynthia looked down feeling guilty. She couldn't say a word. You should stop this before you'll get hurt more and more, or even worse die. Ichigo just looked up at him and shook his head. Professor Oak give up. He couldn't stop the boy. Then why? What is your reason? Ichigo then looked at Cynthia, who turned her head down, not able to look at him in the face, and say, to protect. After he say those words, the three professors did not see a child, they see more of a warrior in Ichigo. Cynthia looked stunned too. Why? Why do all that for a stranger like me? She looked at him with her gray eyes. You may not know this, but my name Ichigo means one who protects. Ichigo pulls up his hurt hand, gripping it tight. Someone really important to me had given me that name for a reason, and it's that reason why I do what I did. Ichigo then continue, and it's also because of that very same reason I want to get stronger and stronger. The professors and Cynthia understand his reason, with Cynthia having a deep though. Now enough of all this talking, let's get something to eat. You two must be famished. Carolina broke the silence and walked out of the room with the others following one by one. While walking out of the room, Cynthia turned to Ichigo and say again, thank you. Ichigo just smile at her with Charmander on the back of his neck. Riolu pull her leg, looking down at her worried Pokemon. I'm fine now, Riolu, you don't have to worry. The Pokemon nodded, while the two walk with Riolu on her side and Charmander on his shoulder. Ichigo? Yeah? She wanted to ask him something, but after a while of silence, it's nothing. Cynthia shook her head before running forward to the kitchen with Riolu following her. Ichigo and Charmander just looked confused at her. Ichigo looked at her with an amused smirk. She is a lot different if you get to know her a bit, he thought to himself. After the two arrived, the professors were already sitting with Carolina preparing the food. Ichigo walked up to her. Here, let me help you. Carolina got surprised at Ichigo's request to help her prepare the food. Why, thank you, young man. She then looked to her granddaughter, who is reading the dusty old book again. Cynthia, you could learn a thing or two from him, you know? She sarcastically tells Cynthia, who didn't even hear her as she got too engrossed in the book she is reading. After they were all done, Ichigo cleaned all the dishes with Cynthia helping him. The adults and Pokemon were sitting in the living room. What a nice young boy. Professor Oak looked at Ichigo. He's really one of a kind, isn't he? Carolina nodded. He can even make my granddaughter smile again, even if it was for a little while, which I'm very grateful. Finally, that girl can stop brooding. Professor Rowan then stood up. Well, it's getting late, and I have many things to do, so I'll be leaving now. The other two understand him. How about you and Ichigo stay the night here? Carolina suggested to Professor Oak, who nodded, accepting the offer. Inside the kitchen, the two teens were finishing up the dishes with the help of their Pokemon. Okay, we're finally done. Ichigo cleaned his hands from doing the dishes. Charmander to agree. Looking outside, it started to get dark with the moon shining bright. Cynthia excused herself and just walked out of the kitchen outside towards her family battlefield with Riolu. Ichigo and Charmander didn't even realize them gone, still looking at the moon. Professor Oak came in the kitchen. Oh, Ichigo will be spending the night here, okay. Before he went back to his old colleague to discuss some matters. Ichigo didn't really mind, as he's still too tired from all the things that happened today. Charmander? Chair? Let's go outside and walk around for a bit, okay? Charmander cried, pulling his hands up, agreeing. Before they go, Ichigo went back to the room to take the big bag he had carried. Phew! It's still here. Ichigo then pull out the incubator and old-looking letter, but the documents weren't there. Guess she already took them. He put the letter in his pocket and let Charmander carry the incubator. The two walk outside the small mansion, feeling the fresh, cool air Celestic Town in the night is giving. Ichigo looked up at the moon, having the same feeling of recognition before he shook his head. Riolu, faster. We have to get stronger, so faster. The two heard the familiar voice of Cynthia from the back of the house. Curiosity got the better of them and walked to where they heard the voice. When the two arrived, they see that Cynthia and Riolu were training, with Riolu dodging dozens of balls thrown at him from a couple of machines surrounding him from a distance, and Riolu dodged them with ease and grace. Ichigo just whistled at Riolu's speed. Feeling a tug on his leg, Ichigo looked down to see Charmander trying to tell him something, but Ichigo knew what he meant. Sorry, no. You're still recovering. The Pokemon deflate and put his head on top of the incubator. Cynthia still wasn't satisfied with its speed. Riolu, I'm gonna make it a little faster, so be ready. Riolu nod. After adjusting the machines, it got faster than the last rounds, but Riolu still dodged them, but with some difficulty. As it goes on, Riolu started to get exhausted from all the movements he is doing. In the sideline, Cynthia just looked at him. A ball came fast and Riolu got hit hard on his back, not able to evade the last ball. Ichigo thought Cynthia would run to her Pokemon, but she just walked as if she isn't really worried about her Pokemon. Riolu, rest for a bit. We'll continue after 5 minutes. Riolu nodded and sit on the ground to catch his breath. Ichigo then walked up to the girl Cynthia. Cynthia turned to see Ichigo, surprised that he was watching her training with Riolu. What is it? You're pushing Riolu too hard. He'll get seriously hurt if you keep this up, Ichigo tells her, looking at Riolu worriedly. Cynthia understands what he meant, but I'm sorry, I can't do that. We have to get stronger and be the strongest. She shook her head and answered him in a monotonous tone. Even if your Pokemon get hurts in the end? Cynthia froze at that. She quickly answered him back. You won't understand. I have to do it, I promise them. She whispered the last part. She then looked down and she got surprised to see the very same egg her parents gave to her a year ago. Why are you carrying that, Ichigo? Ichigo realized what she meant. I know that you believe it won't hatch. I can't blame you for that. But I couldn't let it stay inside the lab alone where everyone is too busy to take care of it, so I decided to take care of it whether you like it or not. Cynthia didn't like it one bit. Whatever, just do what you want. She turned back to train Riolu. Wow, guess she's still a bitch, Hollow says in his mind. And where were you? Where else? Asleep the whole time. Ichigo then looked down at Charmander, who seemed to be sleeping on the incubator. Okay, you need get some rest. Ichigo shook the Pokemon awake. Char. Charmander lazily stood up and walked back into the house with Ichigo carrying the incubator. Cynthia watched as the two walked back in the house. Why? Why is he stronger than me? She thought at Ichigo. No one has beaten me a single battle before I. She couldn't hate him as he had saved from danger, which she think was very sweet of him. Cynthia flushed a bit for thinking such thoughts. Focus, we have to get stronger and I'll beat him next time, before she returned to Riolu's training. The next morning. The sun rise with its light brightening up the room of one young teenage girl who began waking up after feeling the sunlight hit her face. Cynthia yawned, stretching her arms, and looked outside the window looking at the beautiful day. A great day to train, she thought. Looking down something surprised at what she is seeing at the moment. Ichigo and Charmander were battling each other with quick and strong hits before running around with Charmander charging black flames in his mouth and Ichigo charging what seems to be a black color aura sphere before firing at each other, making an explosion. Professor Oak and Carolina were in the sideline watching the battle and examining them. Cynthia knew Ichigo was special, but to the extent of using a Pokemon move, she got bewildered. Riolu too watched the battle with great interest. Seeing the two trainer and Pokemon, Cynthia's hope of becoming the strongest felt like a dream now. How am I going to compete with that? She starts to feel even more depressed. Riolu sensing his trainer's emotion, he put his paw on her leg trying to soothe Cynthia, but she didn't even look at him, too depressed. Preparing herself for the day and putting on her glasses, maybe those girls were right, I'm just a blonde bookworm, she thought while redressing the bandages on her right foot she had received yesterday. Walking down with Riolu, she prepared breakfast for Riolu and herself. After they were done, she turned to Riolu. Riolu, I need some time alone. You can do whatever you want today. You have trained hard enough, she tells the blue canine Pokemon, who is getting more and more worried about his trainer. Then she went outside with Riolu, watching her going out. Back with our orange protector, who is breathing hard, with Charmander doing the same. Charmander, you're really getting stronger. Huff, huff, Ichigo complimented the fire type. Charmander respond. Professor Oak and Carolina were looking at the two and the bond they share with a smile. He's gonna be really strong as he gets older, isn't he? Samuel nodded. No wonder Ash and Gary look up to him so much, though. Ichigo, next time, I'll help you use your aura in a better way. How you're using it now is still not strong enough, hollow voice came. Yeah, Ichigo answered, not really have the energy to say anything more. After a while, Riolu came to them with a sad frown on his face. Charmander walked up to the Pokemon and then start a conversation with him. The two Pokemon then quickly moved to Ichigo, and the two started telling him something. Ichigo sit and try to listen. Okay, calm down you two, one at a time. Riolu then start trying to tell him something and pointing at a window before saying the rest. Any normal human would have no idea what it was trying to say, but Ichigo understand that it was something about Cynthia and trouble. So quickly getting up, he went towards the two professors. Professor, I'm going out for a bit. The two professor just look at him in confusion. Why? Professor Oak inquired. Riolu is getting worried about Cynthia and wants me to help find her. Carolina just sighed, knowing that it is a habit of her granddaughter to go out just like this. Sorry you have to do this. Cynthia always have been like this since that dreadful day. Ichigo responds that it's fine and went outside to find the girl with the two Pokemon following him. Somewhere in Celestic Town. A lone figure is sitting in front of a large tree located on a small hill, not far from said person house. Cynthia is sitting there with a dusty old book which she had retrieved from Ichigo's bag, trying to forget all the worries of the world by reading beside the tree where she used to spend time with her parents. But she couldn't enjoy any moment as a single thought went through her mind. Am I weak? Am I not strong? She kept asking herself. I'm sorry, but I can't promise you guys. I'm too weak. A single tear fell from her eyes. She holds her knees to her chest, trying not to cry. A few yards from her position, a few boys were looking at her. "Hey, isn't that the really pretty girl that lives in Professor Carolina house?" "Yeah, that's her. Why, man? You have a crush on her?" "I do, but every time a guy asks her, she rejects them very harshly, so I rather not do anything." "Well, she's one of the most prettiest girl in town." The boys were too engrossed in their conversation that they didn't see a girl listening to their conversation who did not seem to be quite happy at what they were saying. "I'm gonna get you for these, bookworm." She looked at Cynthia in jealousy before running off. Cynthia just stay in the same position for a while, not really caring what has happened around her. Suddenly she got pushed down on the grass with her glasses and book on the ground too. She tried to get up, but she felt her hands were being held down by someone. Looking up, she saw the three girls, the one who have always bullied her since childhood stood in front of her, and two boys pinning her down. "What do you three want?" giving them a cold glare. Don't try to act all high and mighty with me, bookworm." She glared back at Cynthia, who just turned her head, not wanting to see her face. "Look at me," the girl screamed, slapping down on her face. The two boys who had pinned down Cynthia saw her action. "Aren't you going a little far?" "We're just trying to put her in her place," one of the boys asked her. "Shut up, and we are going to put her in her place." The two girls beside her were getting scared of their friend. Cynthia did not even flinch when she got slapped. She didn't even try to struggle. The girl looked back at Cynthia. "Heard you finally got beaten. How does it feel to be beaten at something you're really good at?" Cynthia twitched a bit at her statement, which the girl saw and smirked. "Hit a sore spot, didn't I?" she smirked, quickly signaling the two boys, who then pulled Cynthia up and carried her towards the nearby woods with the three girls following her. On another area, we find Ichigo and the two Pokemon looking for Cynthia. Where could she be? Ichigo thought to himself, with Charmander and Riolu looking around. Ichigo turned to Riolu. "Riolu, do you have any idea where she would go when she's depressed?" Riolu then began thinking before he got an idea. The blue canine Pokemon quickly run towards a certain place where she always went. Ichigo and Charmander follow Riolu. After they arrive at the spot where Riolu is standing, who is kneeling down. "What is it, Riolu?" Ichigo went up to investigate what had the Pokemon stop its track. Looking down, he found Cynthia's glasses broken and her book on the ground. "Looks like something happened here." Looking down on the ground more clearly, "She must have been forcefully taken, and there seems to be a trail, but who would do such a thing? Let's go. We can't stay around here, we have to quickly find her." The other two Pokemon nodded before they run towards where the trail is going before looking forward. It seems to lead towards the same forest Ichigo had saved Cynthia. So the three run quickly, fearing for what would happen to her on entering the forest. They lost the trail. "Damn it." Ichigo punched a tree beside him, putting a large dent on it. Riolu looked down, feeling sad for being useless to his trainer. Charmander just looked at his trainer. A nearby bush shook Ichigo, and the other two prepare for what will come, and from the bush came out an Ursaring, but not just any Ursaring, the very same one who attacked Ichigo and Cynthia the day before. It looks at Ichigo, and Ichigo told the other two to calm down. Grrr. It tried to tell Ichigo something which Ichigo understood a bit before Ursaring walked the orange hair boy, then follow him. "Come on, you two." Ursaring knows Cynthia is Riolu, and Charmander just follow him without any question. Back with Cynthia, who is being tied to a tall tree. "How does it feel, bookworm? Still think you're still better than us?" She keeps trying to taunt her, which Cynthia just looked back at her with a blank face. The two boys and two girls who were with her look at their friend with a strange look. "She's breaking down. We got to do something." The girl turned to her friends. "What are you all doing there? Let's give Bookworm here a piece of our mind." They hesitated at her suggestion. "Well, more for me." She pulled up her hands to slap Cynthia, but something stopped her. Looking down, she sees Cynthia's eyes widen before looking to her back to see someone with orange hair stopping her. "Now that isn't how you should treat others, even if she's a bit odd." Ichigo take a quick glance at Cynthia, who is taken offended at what he said. The girl pulls her arm, backing away from Ichigo. Her friends too stood with her. "Who the heck are you?" the girl growled at Ichigo. Ichigo just looked back at her with a cold gaze, which she and her friends flinch a bit at his frightening look. Well, you tied up my friend on a tree and hurt her, so I'm a little angry, Ichigo says in a cold voice. The girl yelled to her friends, aren't you two boys? He's only one, so get him. The two boys then run to him. One of them tried to grab him, but Ichigo gave a swift kick at his side, sending back flying. The other one got angry seeing his friend got hurt. You bastard, swinging his fist towards Ichigo, who didn't even dodge it before it hits right on mark. Heh, you're not that strong, he smirked, but Ichigo turned his head back to him. Is that it? The boy didn't like how all of this is happening. They were just here to scare the girl, not go this far. Ichigo didn't give him any time to prepare himself. Ichigo then quickly grabbed his shirt and stepped his right foot in front of the boy and threw him beside his friend, who then had swirl in his eyes. Ichigo then looked back at the girl while cracking his knuckle, which scared the girls. The leader of the group have an idea. She then threw a pokeball. Ichigo just raised a brow, and from it came out a blue penguin-like Pokemon. On its body are 4 large white spots which resembles buttons. Ichigo just look at the Pokemon-like penguin. You want to play that way, huh? A black blur stood in front of Ichigo, surprising the girls at the sudden appearance. Charmander glare at the water type, who flinch. Prinplup use water pulse. The water Pokemon form a small sphere shape of water on its long flippers like wing before blasting it towards Charmander, who is too angry to dodge it. Splash! The water move directly hit Charmander and a large steam blew upward. The girl had a smirk on, but she had a surprised look when she sees that Charmander didn't take much damage. What? That's not possible? Ichigo got tired, really tired. Charmander do it. Charmander then pull his head back like a dragon, ready to breathe out fire from his mouth. The water Pokemon panicked. Charmander then released his black flames at the Pokemon, who then got pushed back by the intense fire before exploding. Boom! Prinplup fainted on the ground with burn marks. Pry. The girl's jaw dropped at what had happened. So are you gonna come quietly, or do I have to more? Ichigo warned them. The leader protested. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Strange and Kind 634 them on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.